So in the past day or so, Jordan Love was asked about would he be willing to potentially sit behind Aaron Rodgers once again in 2023 if Rodgers decides to return to Green Bay. And I want to go over his exact response because I think it is pretty interesting. So it was written by Jason Wilde, Packers writer at Madison.com. And here's an excerpt from that article. It says, asked if Rodgers comes back for the 2023 season, if he really is willing to sit for yet another year. Love replied, that's something me and my agent will talk about. We'll figure that out. So he doesn't give a very direct answer. He doesn't say yes or no. He could have easily said, yes, I'll plan to sit behind Rodgers once again, which maybe he would be okay with. But he mentions his agent and that him and his agent will talk about it. One thing that is very interesting is the fact that both Aaron Rodgers and Jordan Love have the same NFL agent. And of course, an agent's job is to, get your client the best opportunity, hopefully make the most money. And if you're Jordan Love, entering the end of your third season, about to enter your fourth season coming into next year, you'd have to assume that at some point he really wants to start because he was drafted in the first round. He should be given the opportunity to start sometime soon in the future. Of course, with Rodgers and the entire situation, we don't know what's going to happen here in Green Bay, if he'll return, if he won't return. And if you are Jordan Love, you sort of have to feel for Jordan Love. The fact that there are lots of other quarterbacks drafted the exact same time as him who have had multiple years to start and sort of show what they have to offer, been able to develop, in live games. Jordan Love, on the other hand, hasn't quite had that opportunity. I do think, though, when you look at the fact that he has been learning under Aaron Rodgers, that's very valuable. And many of these other quarterbacks drafted in the same class as him haven't had the same opportunity that Jordan Love has had. But it does sort of beg the question, what's going to happen here for the quarterback situation with the Packers going into next season? You look at Aaron Rodgers, we don't know if he's going to return. We look at Jordan Love. Now, we don't exactly know what's going to happen here because what if Aaron Rodgers comes back to Green Bay in 2023, Love talks with his agent, and his agent says, you know what, it's probably best if you look for a trade. At that point, the Packers may have to, trade Jordan Love. They don't necessarily have to, but if Love wants to start elsewhere, and it looks like Aaron Rodgers is going to be here for the next few seasons, then it would make sense for the Packers to trade Love because you can't expect Love to want to be a backup his entire career. The Packers do have that big decision to make this offseason. I think the deadline is May 2nd to decide if they want to exercise Jordan Love's fifth-year option, which will be about $20 million for the 2024 season if they do exercise it. And I feel like if they do decide to exercise that, it almost guarantees Love being the starting QB in 2024. And maybe this offseason, when Brian Gutekunst and Aaron Rodgers talk with each other to discuss the future, if Gutekunst wants to, exercise that option, maybe they talk with Rodgers and say, you know what, we think you should start here next season, but after that, we're going to move to Jordan Love. I think that could be a potential scenario. But let's say Rodgers wants to start, another 3-4 years, which personally I feel like he's only going to play another 1 or 2. But let's just say he does. At that point, I think the Packers would have to trade Jordan Love if they want to stick with Aaron Rodgers because you can't expect him to sit behind Rodgers for another 2, 3, 4 years. He needs to have the opportunity to start somewhere, sometime in the future. I did put out a newsletter regarding this, but also in the past week or so about my opinion that I think it's more likely the Packers trade Aaron Rodgers than Jordan Love. And the reasoning basically behind that is you have Brian Gutekunst, who moves up to draft Jordan Love in the first round a few seasons ago. Jordan Love has now had 3 years to learn under one of the greatest QBs in all time in Aaron Rodgers. He's had 3 years in Matt LaFleur's system, and we've already seen, even coming out, just how talented, how athletic Jordan Love is. And I think that when you add all those factors, I think his ceiling is crazy high. And honestly, if the Packers were to trade Love, I wouldn't be surprised if he went on to another team and started dominating. We don't know if it's going to happen, but we've seen some sparks from him, especially against the Eagles. And so I just think when you factor all that in, personally, I feel like Brian Gutekunst wants to stick with Jordan Love, or he wants to have the Packers start Jordan Love sometime in the future, whether it's next season, the season after that. And I know that Brian Gutekunst did say in his press conference he did for the first time in a few months this past week or so, that the Packers gave Rodgers a contract expecting him to play for more than 1 year. And while I think that was the case when they signed him, part of me wonders if Brian Gutekunst is, completely, it really wants to stick with Rodgers going into next season. And the reason I came to that conclusion at first was just because Rodgers in his comment a few weeks or the past week or two saying that for him to return to Green Bay, there has to be a mutual interest, which would sort of infer that maybe Rodgers thinks Brian Gutekunst isn't really interested, even though he is out here saying it this past week. The thing is, you can't always trust what people have to say at the podium. We saw, I believe, last year, Seahawks coach Pete Carroll said we have no intention of trading Russell Wilson. 2 weeks later, he's sent off to the Broncos. So you never know what Brian Gutekunst is actually thinking. He's probably saying certain things because if he really did want to trade Aaron Rodgers, which I don't know if he does, maybe he wants to stick with Rodgers for another 2, 3, 4 years. That's possible. But at the same time, I don't think we can completely, we can't completely take away the idea that Gutekunst has no potential chance of trading Rodgers. I think there is a chance because if he did really believe that, he wouldn't come out there in this press conference and say, you know what, we gave Aaron Rodgers the 3-year contract. After this one season, we've struggled. You know what, we actually don't think he's the best option moving forward. We're actually going to try to trade him this offseason. He wouldn't say that with the Packers still being in playoff contention. And maybe he's made a decision or had an idea. Maybe he doesn't, but we just don't know. I don't think you can completely say he's going to stick with Rodgers just because he said he is. There's a chance I think he could want to trade Aaron Rodgers if he really thinks Jordan Love is the future. There's so many potential scenarios that could go down. Trading Rodgers, trading Love, keeping both, having Love's 5th-year option exercise, Rodgers playing in 2024. I mean, there's 5, 10-plus possible scenarios, which will be fun to see this offseason what actually goes down because there are so many different moving parts. And at the end of the day, I love Aaron Rodgers. I love Jordan Love. I really want to see Jordan Love succeed. And I will be sad whenever Aaron Rodgers does end up leaving the Packers. So regardless, I'm sort of torn a little bit between this situation because it's not like I want to see Love traded. I really think he has a bright future ahead of him. I think he's a solid guy. He seems like a great, humble player, and I want to see him succeed, and it'll be fun to see him succeed here in Green Bay. But at the same time, how long will Rodgers play? We don't know. So at the end of the day, there's lots of questions, but I thought it would be interesting to sort of show you guys exactly what he did have to say in regards to potentially sitting another year. So that's all for this video. If you guys want to subscribe to my Packers newsletter, I put out one earlier today. You can read that down below. And feel free to subscribe, enter your email, and you'll get all my Packers writing going forward. I've started writing a little bit more these past couple of weeks, lots of different things. So if you want to see that, click the link down below. But thank you so much for watching. I appreciate you guys, and I'll see you guys next time.